Hi people, my name is Mark, and I'm going to probably do a somewhat little more lengthy video here as opposed to 10 minutes. I like to keep them short and sweet, but this is going to take a few more minutes here, so please bear with me. So it says Freemen on the land. This comes from rationalwiki.org, Freemen on the land, and it says, Freemen on the land, also known as FM, OTL, FOTL, Foodle, or simply Freeman, is a form of pseudological woo in various English-speaking countries. Freemen believe that they can opt out of being governed and that what normal people understand to be laws are merely a form of contract that applies only if people consent to it. So, Freemen hold that we are all subject to a massive international legal conspiracy perpetrated for the profit of the elites, but you can hack the system if you just use the right form of words. They believe only in their version of natural law, which they call common law. And natural law is not common law. And in fact, common law is the rule of law, which is government law. And I'll prove that to you guys again, because I'm just so tired of people running around going, oh, well, I'm claiming this and I'm claiming that. It's like, you got to be an idiot. So anyhow, in practical terms, they believe this means that they do not have to pay taxes, debts, mortgages, etc., because we are all deceived. And if you say the right form of words, this fact will be accepted. Think of it as people trying to use a real-life cheat code. Freemen believe that they declare themselves independent of government jurisdiction using the concept of lawful rebellion, that all statute law is contractual and therefore only applicable if an individual consents to it. Now, we're going to look at a couple of things here, okay? It says, Freemen believe that they can opt out of being governed. Now, I'm gonna show you guys a little something here, and you can opt out of being governed, and I'll prove it to you. So I'm tired of all this legal shenanigan bullshit, okay? This is the Constitution Act. This is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, 1982, and you can thank Pierre Elliott Trudeau ripped off Canada for this. But anyhow, nonetheless, it says, whereas Canada is founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Now let me ask you something. If you are a citizen, they will recognize the rule of law. If you are not a citizen and you recognize the supremacy of God, only then can they recognize the supremacy of God that you do not deal in the rule of law. Now, we're going to look at this charter, and I'm going to break this down for you. And it goes like this. It says, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights and freedoms set out in it. Subject refers to slave only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law. Whoever buys the laws makes the laws, like laid law, L-A-I-D, law. They've laid the law, as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Let's look at the word demonstrably here. Take the tribly out and you have demons. So laws as can be demons justified in a free and democratic. Take the cratic out, and demo is one short of N of being demonic. Demon-I-C. So, democratic society. Everybody has the following fundamental freedoms. Look at the words. Fund, men. So if you have all the funds in the world, you can be like O.J. Simpson and you can beat a murder rap. They're telling you right now. Freedom of conscience and religion. Let's put this into perspective. You can have freedom of conscience and religion in jail. What's the first thing they'll do? They'll throw you a Bible. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. You can have that in jail. Freedom of peaceful assembly. You can have that in jail. You can have that sitting on the throne for all I care. Freedom of association. Ooh, these sound like real important things. Sounds pretty kind of fluffy to me. Every citizen of Canada has the right to vote in an election of members of the House of Commons or the Legislative Assembly and to be qualified for membership therein. Everything is on the ship, people. Membership, ownership, friendship, trusteeship, citizenship. So, if you join up with this and you apply for a birth certificate to create a legal identity, and I've already did videos on this, I show it, so please people, stop with the stupidity. So then it says blah, 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 in a real time or apprehend war, invasion or insurrection, whatever, who cares? We don't care about that. Again, it's all fluff. You can have all these rights to freedom of religion in jail. So now it says mobility of citizens. So we're going to come back here, and it says mobility of citizens. Every citizen of Canada, get this, has the right to enter in, to become a Canadian, to remain in, to stay a Canadian, and leave Canada. Okay? Now, you have every citizen of Canada and every person who has the status of permanent residence of Canada has the right to move and take up residence in any province. Let me ask you something. what is this? There's a province name. Okay, what is that? That's just a name on a piece of paper. So if you think you're going to traipse from province to province when it's just a figment of imagination, it's a fiction on a piece of paper, people, this is God's country, okay? You take any government and throw that out the window, they're a fraud, and I'll prove they're a fraud too. And this is no disrespect to anybody because, hey, people can do whatever they want. I'm not out to terrorize people, disrespect them, even government employees. You think you're not slaves? You're slaves. Look up my video where it says slave. Look up job, public mismanagement of funds for private dishonesty and gain. And that's exactly what we have going on here. So we're going to look at something here, and it says every citizen of Canada has the right to enter in, remain in, and leave Canada. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to look at something here. And it says, Freemen on the land is a form of pseudological woo in various English-speaking countries. Freemen believe they can opt out of being governed. Now, let's take a look at this. And this is even for government employees. I don't care who you guys are, whatever. This is for everybody, so I can wake everybody up, okay? So it says here, what does it say? Every citizen of Canada has the right to enter in, remain in, and leave Canada. I myself, okay, Canada is just a name on a piece of paper, and that's Canada. So if you ask me where I live, I won't tell you Canada. I live in my body, okay? That's where I live. Canada is just a fictitious name on a piece of paper. So if I ask you where you live and you tell me you live in the province of Alberta or Canada, I'm sorry, man, but you don't even know who you are. You're so full of shit that you think that you reside in a piece of paper. Okay, people? So now, that's one thing we just proved. It just says right here, what does it say? It says, oh, that Freeman can't opt out. And it says, Freemen believe that they can opt out of being governed and that what normal people understand to be laws are merely a form of contract. Now, if you go into the birth certificate sites like the Ontario birth certificates and it states, what is this for? And it says that it's used to create a legal identity. Now, a legal identity to create this is a contract. And I've already did a definition on slave, and it says a person who is a property of another. Straight out of the books. No wordplay here, people. So anyhow, there's no deceit going on here. So obviously it says only if they consent to it. Well, what's happening is, okay, obviously you can opt out. It says right here. So basically, in a nutshell, now I don't support this Freeman movement. I don't support any of this shit. I don't support any crap that entails titles of nobility. No bill I tie, okay? So it says right here, every citizen of Canada has the right to enter in, remain in, and leave Canada. So I'm going to show you people something, and all you people are running around and you're applying, you're lying for birth certificates to state that you are this person, and thus you become a person which is a citizen, which is a debtor, which has no rights. Okay, you can see we have the right to freedom of thought, freedom of religion. Well, you can have all that stuff in jail. Now, right here, the government deals in certificates. All these people are applying for birth certificates, then they're going to court and they're saying, well, I'm not that person. Well, if you were not that person, you should have never applied for a birth certificate. So obviously the government deals in certificates, okay? Statement of birth, birth certificates, statement of live birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, business licenses. Look at the words, people. License derives from the word licentiousness, acts of the wicked. So obviously, people, if you don't think they deal in certificates, and now something else, there's this legal jargon here where they go on to say that the Freemen, so Freemen believe they can declare themselves independent of government jurisdiction. Well, we just proved right here, the Charter says, hey, you have the right to enter in, remain in, and leave Canada. That's mobility of rights. Okay, there we go. So now that we've established that, and they can declare themselves independent of government jurisdiction, use the concept of lawful rebellion, that all statute law is contractual and therefore only applicable if an individual consents to it. So obviously, okay, they assert that what everyone else regards as the law doesn't apply to them as they have not consented to a contract. I'm sorry, but the minute you apply for a birth certificate, that is the subject matter of all legislation, and I don't care if you have a birth certificate and you think you reserve the right to travel. Well, let me tell you something, okay? You don't reserve shit because you've applied to state that you are now a person, which is a fictitious name on a piece of paper. You never could be that before, but now you're lying. You're applying to state that you are now an Albertan, a Canadian, a citizen, a slave, whatever. Term it how you want. So, and claim have lawful right to refuse arrest if they do not consent. Now, if you've consented to apply for a birth certificate, I don't care what you say, that's a ticket to jail. That's a ticket to slavery. They insist that the government is a corporation. The government is a corporation. Just look at Dun & Bradstreet. That's what's traded under the Harper government. It's not even the government of Canada anymore, people. It's the Harper government, okay? And that's what it's being traded on the stock exchange. I even have the sites to who owns Alberta. Are obsessed with maritime law and call themselves things like John of the Family Smith. Essentially, they're hilarious and somewhat less threatening sovereign citizens. Now, that's an oxymoron. No Freeman arguments have ever succeeded in court. Some courts have explicitly ruled that the term Freeman on the land has no legal significance when the argument is raised. Of course not. If you have a birth certificate, you've agreed to all legislation, and I don't care whether you like it afterwards or not. You've agreed, and the courts don't care. That's why he's called an administrator. Admine is trader, and he will trade your sorry ass, and he will throw it in jail. However, this doesn't stop Freeman from claiming that it works, and obviously not. I mean, just look at... So the Freemen on the land movement inherited various indefensible legal concepts from the older tax protester and sovereign citizen movements and Pos Comitatus in the 70s and 80s. The redemption movement, blah, 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 the Montana Freeman concepts of admiralty law and common law, their obsession with capitalization of words and various theories of finance. Now, they go on to say that, listen, no Freeman has ever succeeded in court and stuff. They even talk about Meads versus Meads here, people. So even the judge in Meads versus Meads. Now, I'm not going to take the time to look through this. I can only read through so much bullshit where I know it's a lie and I don't even have to read anymore. But for you people out there, apparently that's not the case. You're claiming that you're citizens and you don't have rights. Well, we've established you can have freedom of religion in jail. You can have freedom of conscience in jail. We've established all of that, right? So, effectively, people, what's going on here is all these people are running around and they're doing this and they're doing that. And basically, it's simple, okay? Even the judge in Meads versus Meads, he says, if you don't want to be a Canadian, all one has to do is opt out. Those are his words. But, now, here's the question. Everybody, they're getting in trouble. They're not opting out. They're still running around using these fictitious names and persons and all that stuff. Then they're getting into trouble and they're going, no, 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 I'm not that person. Well, I'm sorry, people, but if you apply to state that you are that person and then you're going to court and you're saying that you're not that person, just like here, it'll say that'll make you a terrorist. Okay? So, it's just that simple. Look up the Canadian Criminal Code on terrorism, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So, basically, people, okay, I want to show you something. All you people are submitting your shit back, and even in another video, I show you guys a letter from the Governor General of Ontario, for God's sakes, okay? Of Canada, where he states that, listen, all these people are sending in their identification, has no legal basis in Canadian law. And do you know why it has no basis in Canadian law, people? Because they're not certificated. Look, certificate, certificate, certificate. They deal in birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates, 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 certificates. Certificate, certificate. Okay, here's even my mugshot. This just allows these people to know who I am, even though I'm not a Canadian. Now, I'm going to show you guys something up here close. And because this, you can see this is on 11 by whatever, this is a legal document in their world. Now, I don't deal in the world of legal, but I do carry this around because they've offered me the opportunity, as a nice government would, to use their services even though I'm not a Canadian. I don't have to be a Canadian to use their services. And it goes on to say blah, 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 you know, even in of December AD, after descendants. So they're telling you that they recognize Christianity here, people. Now, This has all been right through the Attorney General's office. This cost me $10. Now I hear all these crazy people and they're going, oh, well, if you have no ID and you can't travel overseas, and, well, I'm sorry, people, but you can travel anywhere in the world with this. You just present this to a consulate, and you can look up notary publics and red seal notaries and authentications and apostilles, and they'll tell you exactly what to do regarding the Hague Convention. So anyhow, this is Alberta, this is the Government of Canada, Government of Alberta, Justice and Solicitor General. This tells you this is the highest law in the land, on the ship in their world. Now, I want to show you people something here. And I've flown across Canada with this, I pull this out, I've dealt with police officers, and I show them this stuff, and they respectfully get it, and they don't bother me. So all you people just mindlessly listening to all this stuff that, lose the name, win the game, but don't have everything certified, you're going to jail. Okay? You're going to go to jail. What I did before I left Canada was I paid all my taxes, I took care of whatever I did, and now we're gonna get into the great scheme of things, and I want to show you guys. World passport. Power of attorney. That allows me to attorney matters, not somebody else. Keywords. Peace treaty. For I am that I am. Okay? Who shall not be legally named. You see this, people? Basically, this, I'm going to show you that this is a death certificate for Mark Randolph Simser, who shall not be legally named, certiorari mandamus habeas corpus, corpus delicti, quo warranto. I don't really go off rights, I go off the grace of God. Non-domestic without the U.S., Canada, the Vatican, the United Kingdom, the United Nations. Now, I want to read something here. Governments can only interact with fictions. Oh, look at this. So if you agree to apply for a birth certificate, you thus become the subject/citizen/debtor/subject. And it says Cruden versus Neal 2, North Carolina 338, 1796, 2 Southeast 70, Inasmuch as every government is an artificial person, so don't apply to be an artificial person, or you will be an artificial person with no rights and abstraction. So, inasmuch as every government is an artificial person and an abstraction and a creature of the mind only, a government, get this, keywords, and these are my words, people, these are theirs, can interface only with other artificial persons. So if you have no contracts with these people and you've had this certified that you are not a potential slave/debtor of subject/slave status, then hey, this is fine. And it says, can interface only with other artificial persons. Get this. The imaginary, having neither actuality nor substance, is foreclosed from creating and attaining parity with the tangible. The legal manifestation of this is that no government, as well as any law, agency, aspect, court, etc., can concern itself with anything other than corporate artificial persons and the contracts between them. Let's take a look at something here, okay? So if you opt out of Canada and you state that you're not an employee of Canada nor you are a citizen, wouldn't this, so now if these freemen believe that they can opt out of being governed, let's ask the question, can they opt out of being governed? Sure they can. But you better do it with certificates, people. That's all I can say. This is the law now that I'm not a Canadian. And these people become the witness. These people become the assurity to the fictitious debt. Not me. God never put me in debt. God never asked me to pay taxes. Now, I'm not bashing all that stuff, but anyhow. So we've seen that. Can interface only with other artificial persons. The imaginary, having neither actuality nor substance, is foreclosed from creating and attaining parity with the tangible. The legal manifestation of this is that no government, as well as any law, agency, aspect, court, etc., can concern itself with anything other than corporate artificial persons and the contracts between them. Penhallow versus Doan. There you go, people. It's all right there. Now, I go on to say they don't like Christians, but anyhow, I mean, I'm just a child of God. We can lose the term Christian, but nonetheless, they recognize Christian in their Charter of Rights and Freedoms because they state right off the top, we recognize the supremacy of God, but only if you recognize the supremacy of God and say that you're not a Canadian. So I go on to say here, I, Christian named Mark, in the flesh and of sound mind, and complete my faculties, now hereby certify that I, a Christian named Mark, is now hereby alive and well, okay, in the flesh, and indeed a private postmaster, and hereby follow natural law without corporate dictate, blah, 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 under the laws of Jesus Christ our Lord and Savior. Statement of facts relied on. Every citizen of Canada, look at this, I'm just using their charter. Every citizen of Canada has the right to enter in, remain in, and leave Canada. Mark Randolph Sinzer, which is a coat of arms in any style of cause, is hereby deceased and has left Canada. It's just a name on a piece of paper, so how could I live in Alberta or Canada? It's preposterous. It's fraud. So then I go on to say, so basically, natural law without corporate dictate, under the laws of Jesus Christ our Lord and Savior. Statement of facts relied upon. Every citizen of Canada has the right to enter in, remain in, and leave Canada. I said, okay, I'm not an employee or a citizen of Canada. I've left Canada. All my licenses have been revoked, and it's a proclamation that they've sent back. The respective people have got it back. And what did I give the Court of Queen's Bench? I gave them a certificate so they could do their job and not harass me. It's actually a respectful thing to do, as opposed to going to court. You've never dealt with certificates. You're stating that you've applied to be a person, and then you're going, no, I'm not a person. I'm a freeman on the land. That makes you a terrorist. So anyhow, and Mark Randolph Sinzer, which is a coat of arms in any style of cause, okay? I'm going to see if we can get this in here. Mark Randolph Sinzer, which is coat of arms in any style of cause, is hereby deceased and has left Canada. I drove nails through this dead person's coffin, and he's dead. Now, we've established that. I'm telling them all identification has been returned and revoked. This isn't my actual court document that I gave to the Court of Queen's Bench. And it goes on, and I say this is a proclamation. Okay, so all documents, contracts with the government of Canada, government of Canada, United States, Vatican, all that other shit, blah, 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 are now null and void and are hereby revoked, and this is not an offer. This is a proclamation, and this is now a death certificate for Mark Randolph Sinzer in any style of cause. So this guy is dead. Just that simple, people. And something else, they label all their names in here of who these freemen are and this and that. You know why they label their names? Because these people have never trademarked their name. Even though Mark Sinzer is dead, and it's just a name on a piece of paper, just like Alberta or Canada or the government of Alberta, okay, even though that name is dead and I killed it with the death certificate, I common law trademarked it, and you can see that in my other documents or whatever, but anyhow, so of course these people are not going to list my name. The last few people who have tried to sue me, I just sent them something saying, listen, what the fuck you doing using my intellectual property, even though effectively it's God's property, so I mean, who are we kidding here, right? Nothing is mine, you know. God gave us dominion over things. God never said we own things. So, you know, we're going to take a look here again. And we've established, you know, the rights specified, any laws or practices, blah, blah, blah. This is all just bullshit. And it says legal rights, okay? Well, legal is the undoing of God's law. So rights come from man, okay? And rights can be taken away from man. Now, grace comes from the Creator. Nobody ever can take that away. Even Canada, they say, oh, we're not like the States. We don't follow American law. Okay, what's the first thing a cop says to you? You have the right to remain silent, and anything you can say will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand this? So if you're going to tell me that we don't follow American law, people, it's all the same shit from one country to another. I don't care if it's Australia, anybody in the Commonwealth, and that's that. And look, we were talking about, you know, fluff. Like, everyone has the right on arrest or detention to be informed promptly of the reasons therefore, to retain and instruct counsel without delay, and to be informed of that right, and to have the validity of the detention determined by way of habeas corpus, and to be released if the detention is not lawful. People, Canada does not deal in lawful, they deal in legal, legal. Those are two French words. And what was the oldest form of business? I hate to say it, but it was called prostitution. Where would you take a hoe? You'd take her to a hotel. I mean, honestly, people, right? So they're not called hotels because, I don't know, these people are bored, right? And then they go on to say, so basically you're to be presumed innocent, innocent until proven guilty. Well, obviously, they're saying here to be released if the detention is not lawful. Well, they don't deal in law. They deal in legal. They tell you right here, right? So they go on to all this mindless shit, like you can move from province to province. Whoop-de-doo. You can have conscience, freedom of conscience in jail. You have the right not to be subjected to any cruel and unusual treatment or punishment. Ooh, doesn't that sound nice when you're in behind bars? But meanwhile, some other inmate's kicking in your face, right? Equality rights. Every individual, look at the words, in divide you all is equal before and under the law. So you're under the law. You're not above the law. You're a criminal and you're under the law, right? And, you know, I just want to say, people, that the bottom line is we're going to look through this. Official languages of Canada. Who gives a shit? Come out of Babylon, my people, unless you want to partake in her sins. This is all I can say, right? Words, actions speak louder than words. Talk is cheap and silence is golden. Words are silver. Speech is silver, man. It's crap. I don't need to talk with my animals or to my family to cook a dinner and let them know, or, you know, words just aren't needed. So anyhow, you know, you have the right to use French or English. Ooh, in any debates. Ooh. You know, so people, the bottom line is this, okay? I don't care if you're government employees or not. The bottom line is, even in Meads versus Meads, straight from the horse's mouth, the judge says if one not want to be a Canadian anymore, all one need not do is be a Canadian. But what he didn't tell you in Meads versus Meads is that you better get that certificated and you better send a physical certified copy to these people. Look up at the Alberta Rules of Court, certificate, 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 etc. And if you think these people don't deal in certificates, look, people, I mean, I know so many people who are in jail. My friends just don't get bothered or harassed. And you know why? Because they're not a bunch of crazy terrorists slash freemen. Now, not all these freemen are terrorists, not paint with a wide brush. But what do they deal in? Look. Now, all these people here, there's certificate, certificate, certificate. Now, this can be used to travel overseas because it's come through the Attorney Justice and Solicitor General. Right? Who's higher than the Attorney General in Alberta? Nobody. The Governor General. That's about it. Then next it's the Queen. They're just heads of state people. So the bottom line is, people, please stop with all this shit that you're just going to submit all this stuff back. I prove in other videos, even with a letter from the Attorney General's Office of Ontario, saying that basically sending all your stuff back unless it's been notarized is just, I mean, they don't even know how to deal with it legally because they deal in certificates. Now, something else here. Somewhere in here, and I don't know how well it's coming up on the screen. Probably not too well, but obviously you can tell I'm reading from something. They go on here in this Freemen thing, and I'm going to see if I can find this in a second. And it says somewhere about, anyhow, there's some talk where they're talking about using notary publics, and they're saying, oh, these freemen on the land think that if they're using a notary public that, you know, that basically it means nothing. Well, people, if having these documents certificated and is just legal mumble jumble and it's not even recognized, so they say, for like these freemen and all that stuff, so then basically what Canada and that judge is telling me is that this whole system is shit, and that they're corrupt, and even their very own documents that they certify ain't worth the paper they're written on. That's basically what they're saying when they're saying all this stuff. Like, oh, well, these people, they think that having a notary public is important. Well, of course it's important. What does the government do? Look, what was that notarized by? A notary public. What is this notarized by? A notary public who verified the authentication process for this notary public. Like, I can't make this stuff up, people. It's just that simple. So even the government going, oh, well, they think if they're using this and, well, it means nothing. Well, if that's the case, then basically Canada's whole system is fraud. Now, how do we know it's fraud? Well, it's not fraud if you agree to partake in it and be a slave of subject status, which is a person / citizen. And we've already determined that. Now, I'm going to come into something else here. And we're going to go like this. Now, this was a legal definition I took out of some dictionary offline. So I wrote, if you think that your G over men is lawful, well, they're not. They're de facto. Okay, we're going to look at exactly what de facto is, and if you go into the Attorney General's sites or the Governor General's sites of Canada, or you look up the Government of Canada, they'll start off, oh, the Government of Canada's in de facto sovereign so we reign powers. Just add another V. If you add two V's, what do you have? You have a W. So we reign. It says here, this comes from straight from, I don't know, some Wikipedia, whatever, dictionary bullshit. And this all started because people are writing and they're going, well, I'm going to court and I'm telling them, well, that's not lawful. Canada doesn't deal in the law, people. They deal in de facto legalities. And we've determined legal is French for woman, bourgeoisie, B-R-G-O-I-C. Everybody's going, oh, you know, communist this and democracy, you guys a little something here. And you can opt out of being governed, and I'll prove it to you. So I'm tired of all this legal shenanigan bullshit, okay? This is the Constitution Act. This is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, 1982, and you can thank Pierre Elliott Trudeau ripped off Canada for this. But anyhow, nonetheless, it says, whereas Canada is founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Now, let me ask you something. If you are a citizen, they will recognize the rule of law. If you are not a citizen and you recognize the supremacy of God, only then can they recognize the supremacy of God that you do not deal in the rule of law. Now, we're going to look at this charter, and I'm going to break this down for you. And it goes like this. It says, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights and freedoms set out in it You can have freedom of conscience and religion in jail. What's the first thing they'll do? They'll throw you a Bible. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. You can have that in jail. Freedom of peaceful assembly. You can have that in jail. You can have that sitting on the throne for all I care. Freedom of association. Ooh, these sound like real important things. Sounds pretty kind of fluffy to me. Every citizen of Canada has the right to vote in an election of members of the House of Commons or the Legislative Assembly and to be qualified for membership therein. Everything is on the ship, people. Membership, ownership, friendship, trusteeship, citizenship. So if you join up with this and you apply for a birth certificate to create a legal identity, and I've already did videos on this, I show it, so... Hi people, my name is Mark, and I'm going to probably do a somewhat little more lengthy video here as opposed to 10 minutes. I like to keep them short and sweet, but this is going to... take a few more minutes here, so please bear with me. So it says, Freemen on the land. This comes from rationalwiki.org, Freemen on the land. And it says, Freemen on the land, also known as FMOTL, FOTL, Foodle or simply Freeman, is a form of pseudological woo in various English-speaking countries. Freemen believe that they can opt out of being governed and that what normal people understand to be laws are merely a form of contract that applies only if people consent to it. So, Freemen hold that we are all subject to a massive international legal conspiracy perpetrated for the profit of the elites, but you can hack the system if you just use the right form of words. They believe only in their version of natural law, which they call common law. And natural law is not common law. And in fact, common law is the rule of law, which is government law. And I'll prove that to you guys again, because I'm just so tired of people running around going, oh, well, I'm claiming this and I'm claiming that. It's like, you got to be an idiot. So anyhow, in practical terms, they believe this means that they do not have to pay taxes, debts, mortgages, etc., because we are all deceived. And if you say the right form of words, this fact will be accepted. Think of it as people trying to use a real-life cheat code. Freemen believe that they declare themselves independent of government jurisdiction using the concept of lawful rebellion, that all statute law is contractual and therefore only applicable if an individual consents to it. Now, we're going to look at a couple of things here, okay? It says, Freemen believe that they can opt out of being governed. Now, I'm gonna show you it refers to slave only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law. Whoever buys the laws makes the laws, like laid law, L-A-I-D, law. They've laid the law, as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Let's look at the word demonstrably here. Take the tribly out and you have demons. So laws as can be demons justified in a free and democratic, take the cratic out, and demo is one short of N of being demonic. Demon-I-C. So, democratic society. Everybody has the following fundamental freedoms. Look at the words. Fund, A, men. So if you have all the funds in the world, you can be like O.J. Simpson and you can beat a murder rap. They're telling you right now. Freedom of conscience and religion. Let's put this into perspective.